The new game, HxH Nen Impact, was a highly anticipated fighting game for myself and many others. It's just a shame because in spite of that excitement, this game raised immediate concerns for me that I want to address, as well as hopefully start a larger conversation about anime fighting games as a whole. To rip the band-aid clean off, Nen Impact is severely lacking in single-player content. It should be noted that fighting games tend to struggle in this area pretty consistently, but for it to be an issue of this size should still speak volumes. There are a few things to cover in this regard, but I want to start with the biggest offender first. The combo trials in this game are a complete farce. Combo trials in any fighting game, regardless of what you may feel about its quality, should teach the player how any given character generally works. It should show the player ways to weave at least some of the character's kit together to make a cohesive combo. Many times, a game's progressive combo trials will repeat certain strings of attacks to show players what to easily rely on. You know, your bread and butter? Nen Impact's combo trials are in name only. They are damage thresholds. They do not provide any deeper insight into any character. All it asks is that you hit a certain number of damage. This is not helpful in the slightest. Unless a player is willing to put the time in training mode to figure out how each character works, they would have to refer to the community for help. That in itself is not a problem, but for that to be necessary is. Fortunately, these external resources are not too hard to find. I'll even link a couple in the description below, but my point still stands. The story mode is also pretty bare bones. I wasn't expecting much, but it's just a glorified slideshow of the supposed highlights in the anime. It's nothing engaging, and there's no voice acting either. I'm not counting those stupid grunts they let out that doesn't count.
Nanda?
Whenever they manage to put a fight in the story, it's just a best of one. And even though there is a checklist of supplemental objectives to go for, they are so elementary in nature that it's not even a challenge. The S rank they hand out at the end is completely meaningless. This particularly sucks because this does nothing for the fans of the series since there are better mediums to experience the story from. And it does nothing to pull in new fans because this presentation of HxH is so hollow. Curiously, they decide to tuck the tutorial of the game within the story mode instead of something like the training mode. Credit where it's due, the tutorial did teach me how something like the Nen button works differently from the Arcs button, but more on that in a bit. I could talk about the arcade modes, but those are your standard fare for fighting games like these, and this game does nothing special with it anyway. However, the online mode is definitely another point of contention. I hope that whatever I say will be outdated soon, because the devs did put out a notice saying that they are aware of the issue, but the online is just not in the best shape at the moment. This game does have rollback netcode, which softens the blow, but it is not as well implemented as it could be. Matches being cancelled due to desyncs are decently commonplace. Like I said, it sounds like they're currently fixing it, so I hope that happens soon, but that isn't the only thing. The online mode itself is a bit unintuitive and boring. The connection settings are a bit odd with how they are phrased. For instance, when selecting my region, I would like to play in North America, but it seems that most people are in GI. And I thought, hey, what would GI stand for? Global International, right? But that has the same abbreviation as GI, which stands for Greed Island in the game. If that's what it means, please point on a map where Greed Island would be on this globe! Setting aside everything else, even the player profile cards don't give you much to work with. At most, you can change the profile character and the title, but the nameplate itself remains untouchable as of now. The player card is not nearly the most important thing when it comes to these kind of games, but being able to show just the tiniest bit of personal creativity goes a long way. Losing that aspect is just another ding on the rap sheet. Wait, how did the song go again? This last bit is definitely less subjective than the others, but I find that a 7-button layout is absurd. It'd be one thing if this was an optional setup, but the fact that each button is essential is what really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Normally, tag fighters like this would have 4 or 5 attack buttons and 1 or 2 assist buttons to call on the other teammates. Regardless of arrangement, you don't want to push it past 6 total buttons. With this decision, Nen Impact has invalidated certain arcade-style controllers that weren't built for this layout in mind. Now, I see that this was done with the simplification of motion controls in mind, but in an attempt to appeal to newcomers of fighting games, they have unintentionally made things more complicated than they needed to be. Adding an extra button to keep track of is already a tall ask for beginners, but are we really that afraid of motion inputs nowadays? If you look at each character's kit, they could easily fit everything that's relegated to the arts button, aka the 7th button that I'm talking about, within forward and backward quarter circle motions. The quarter circle is the simplest traditional motion input. Doing a quarter circle takes like 5 minutes of uninterrupted practice maximum to master. Editing Afro here. It has recently come to my attention that apparently FIFA has motion controls. So if you're really against motion controls, are you going to seriously sit there and tell me that you're gonna let a FIFA player outplay you? There's no way, man. Come on, FIFA! Oh my god, they got half circles, they got charge inputs, and you're crying over quarter circles? Oh my god, FIFA! If simplifying motion inputs just had to be implemented somehow, then I recommend doing it in a way that something like Grand Blue Fantasy Versus does it. Have an optional button that is used for simplifying motion inputs, while still having traditional motion inputs in place. That way, the 7th button coming into play is a nice alternative, not a requirement. This is especially head scratching because Nen Impact does this, but with auto combos. Even if it's optional, this would now make an 8th button in the mix. You can fly away. All of these problems culminate into the fact that besides playing against other people, there isn't much for the player to do outside of that. And that sucks because the game is actually pretty fun. These devs are the same people who made DNF Duel and even more famously, Marvel vs. Capcom. Setting aside any feelings about DNF Duel, you can really feel that bloodline course through its tag fighter genre and mechanics themselves. It's not overly imbalanced like older games are, where only a fraction of the roster is viable to play. That isn't to say there isn't some wacky stuff you can do. I mean, there are some pretty nasty things you can pull off. But that chaotic aspect, funnily enough, plays right into how insane the series of Hunter x Hunter can actually get as well. Not only that, but every character's kit is pretty faithful to the source material, and it's nice to be able to wield some of their abilities firsthand. There's even a level of detail. For instance, if you play as the character Karapika, he will automatically activate his level 2 super if he's facing anyone that is a part of the Phantom Troop. Even if you know nothing about who they are, all you need to know is that Karapika hates them with his entire being for what they did to him, and seeing that ludonarrative harmony is a pleasant and welcome surprise. It's just so gut-wrenching that there is so much holding this game back. I see people talking about their discontent with the game, with some cases even leading people to refund it. Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact is an important game. This game isn't important for just being another tag fighter to add to the catalog. It was important because it is a 2D fighting game starring a huge anime franchise. That might not sound like much, but for years now, anime fans have been subjected to a lot of arena fighters. And look, I know arena fighters have their fans, but I personally feel like they pale in comparison to 2D fighters. Sure, sometimes the combos can feel good and look amazing. Sometimes the presentation itself is enough to win people over. Just look at something like the new Bleach game that came out not too long ago. Look at what they're doing with the Demon Slayer games. It'd be a disservice to not even mention the Naruto Ninja Storm series in this conversation either. However, I feel that companies know that by using big anime series as a dressing for their arena fighters, it allows them to get away with style over substance. For every cool combo that you're pulling off in a Ninja Storm game, you're only ever pressing like 1, maybe 2 buttons at a time. Even with all its flair, the mindlessness of it all takes over and makes these games lose their luster. Now keep in mind, I'm still talking about the good arena fighters here. I could easily talk about the mediocre ones like My Hero 1's Justice, or even ones so bad that they have been forever delisted and taken off the shelves. Suck my salty nuts, Jumpforce, you greasy disappointment. To help drive my point home, the game that broke the trend of arena fighter slop was Dragon Ball FighterZ. This game had both style and substance. The aesthetics were perfectly crafted to look like they were ripped right out of the pages of a manga. The combat had auto combos for newcomers to get into fighting games, but still left a lot of room for fighting game veterans to create their own combos. Aside from even playing the games, the 2D fighters are just more fun to watch in general. Look at something like EVO. EVO is the biggest fighting game tournament in the world. Not once has there been an arena fighter on the main stage. But something like Dragon Ball FighterZ has. Yeah! I'm not saying that I outright hate arena fighters. Even I was someone who went out of his way to buy My Hero 1's Justice. But I do think they are simply outclassed. I would love to be proven wrong someday, but I have yet to see even one arena fighter leave an everlasting impact on people like it has with 2D fighters. Nen Impact is important because it could be one of those games. It could be a game that people see on the main stage of a big tournament. It could be a game that attracts newcomers to the genre. It could be the next game that tells big companies that it is a worthwhile investment to create a 2D fighting game over an arena fighter. I don't know what production was like. I don't know how much time they had. I don't know how many people were on the development team. I don't even know what the budget was like. Even so, I can still show my sympathies for the team behind Nen Impact and also be immensely disappointed with what is in front of me. It's clear that regardless of the reason, that concessions were made and shortcuts were taken. People say that the graphics looked like a PlayStation 2 game, and not that I agree with the connotation being put forth. I think the models look fine, but the game is clearly more modest in its presentation compared to its compatriots. Even beyond the graphics, as unique as each character is in the cast, there are a lot of special moves that are just a stance and then a follow-up. If you are one of, unfortunately, many people who have decided that there are too many problems with the game, I do not blame you. Lots of people claim they've already refunded it by now. I just hope that with this video, regardless of if you've refunded it or if you're on the fence somewhere, that we just hold out for a bit and see how receptive the devs are to feedback and how quickly problems get addressed. I already mentioned before that they seem to have taken notice of the online issues. Hopefully now that we are in the modern age, most if not all of these problems can be patched in some kind of way. To hear that people are declaring that Nen Impact is dead on arrival is unfortunately understandable, but heartbreaking all the same. HxH is a huge franchise that somehow has an outrageously small footprint in the video game market, and it hurts to see that this supposed big entrance onto the scene is turning out to be such a flop. I want to be able to see this game perform well. This game should be something for fans of HxH and newcomers to be proud of. It may be naive of me, but I'm still holding out hope for this game. Whether or not it does, only time will tell. Fingers crossed, everyone. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom going around for this game, so I hope I was able to provide an alternative perspective on this whole thing. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and maybe even tell me what you think down in the comments below. Other than that, thank you for watching.